Welcome back. Oh, how you doing, Alex? Let me turn over the
I'm
power
doing
knives.
good, man. I'm doing good. How are you, sir?
I'm good. It's a little warm today, so hopefully the fan noise I got going on is all right. I did not put my skirt on or my kilt on. I just watched Professor EDC's video a few minutes ago, and he talked about Brad Pitt wearing a skirt because it was hot. So I almost busted out my kilt, but I decided to just leave my basketball shorts on. So
I'd rather just be free balling it underneath the computer right here, right now. I
well,
just,
I've got
I just can't stand up.
yeah, just don't stand up. So we don't want you to stand up and go get anything. So today we've got a really cool guest, um, Jim from Oden Customs, and the timing worked out really well because a viewer of mine, Anthony, sent me what is it like 8 or 9 knives that Oden made, and he's in the chat here, Mossy Man Tony. And so timing worked out. I've done some videos from Oden Custom way back because I owned one. And so let's bring Jim on and talk to him. Jim,
How y'all doing, Dirk and
Jim,
Alex?
welcome. How you doing
welcome.
today?
Thank you for having me.
We're
No,
glad to
thank
have
you.
you,
And
buddy.
we've got Tony in the chat. He goes by Mossy. The dude he's got a bunch of weird names. His name's really Anthony, and I hope that's not a secret, but he goes by something else on Instagram, and he goes by something else here on YouTube, and I don't know, these people with their weird names. So
Don't be saying too much. You don't want to get whacked by little Tony.
right?
To give you a pair of cement shoes.
Exactly. But
sounds
welcome,
kind
Jim.
of sounds kind of like me, going by many names.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute because it comes up. People have said some stuff on my videos. I don't want to give away any secrets, but
Yeah,
Jim
So-
Tom is not really your name.
it's not. No. So basically, I've never been a Facebook fan, Instagram fan for personal use. I've never had one until about 2015. Whenever I wanted to start buying and selling knives, the forums was dying out. Everything was going to Facebook. So I created a Facebook with my real name, which is Kyle, by the way, Kyle Oden, which is where Oden Customs comes from. I created a Facebook with my real name. I didn't want nothing to do with personal interactions with people I knew. If I knew them, I was going to talk to them on the phone or text message.
Wait,
So I
wait.
created one.
You're going to talk to somebody on the phone?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's actually
Like-
smart. It's like
like
separating
voice-
like your
voice
two
talking?
different lives, right? Like you
In
got your knife
2022.
life.
Yeah.
Wow. In
Yeah.
2022, you're going to pick up the
Yeah.
phone and like voice talk to somebody.
Oh yeah. Sometimes, mostly text. Mostly text.
It's a good thing I'm sitting down.
At times, you do. Yeah. So
I
I
agree.
created one with my real name, and within 10 minutes, I had 10 friends requests. I was like, no, don't want to do this. So I was like, what can I do? And have y'all ever seen the show Moonshiners that used to come on Discovery?
Yes.
Yeah.
You have that? Okay.
Yes.
So there's a guy on there that's named Jim Tom, old country guy, made moonshine, probably 80, 90 years old. I was like, and that was a hot show at the time. So I was like, well, I like that name. Let me see if I can make it work with Facebook. And that's where Jim Tom came from.
Perfect.
And I made it just for buying and selling EDC items. And it's whenever I started making knives in 2019, I was faced with the decision of everybody knows me in the knife community as Jim Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Do I keep that name? Do I change my name? Do I create a new? I just decided to roll with it. So that's where Jim Tom comes in with Oden Customs.
I like it.
I think it works totally great. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Before I started my YouTube channel, I tried to come up with a name,
Right.
and I'm not that creative, so I just called it Dirk Warning, which is my true name.
Right.
And I just rolled with it. I figured, well, it works for Jim Skelton, so I just went with my own name, and that's just me. But right, we cleared that up, so that's cool. We're just gonna go with Jim today, and go from there. So I guess let's just start off with a little bit of your background and how you got into knives, what brought you into knives, where were you before? I know I did a video a long time ago about it, but
Yeah.
Let's take a couple of minutes.
Let's start where you were before to making knives.
So before I go back all the way to when I was 6 years old, I've always loved knives. My dad would always take me to always lived on a farm, lived out in the boonies. Had chicken houses, had cows, everything like that. So we'd go to the local feed store, and they would always have case knives, and I would be so interested in them. So every time we'd go up there, he'd take me up there. Not every time, but about once, twice a month, he'd say, "Go over there and pick you out a knife." So I would always go over there and pick me out a good old case knife and be so happy of it. And I just want to sharpen them. I think they weren't sharp enough. They came sharp.
Yeah.
So that's how I got started into knives. Is through going to there, and I kind of lost track of being into knives for years, back up until probably 2015, 2016, when I got into Microtech.
Okay.
Thought Microtech was the bomb. Thought that was great, and then a few months later discovered they make custom knives.
Mm-hmm.
Morpheon custom knives. Oh, okay. So let me get into that. So
I went downhill from there because now you broke.
And then I discover Killer Customs page. And I'm like, holy crap! Morpheon is not custom knives.
Right.
they're just product.
Yeah, that page he's talking about. I think he's talking about Midtech and Killer Customs, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Both me and Dirk are on that one. So
the internet dropped out a little bit, but that's okay. He'll be back. We've dealt with this before.
Yes. So so let's talk about custom knives while we're waiting for him to get back. Because one of the reasons why I thought it was really interesting to have him on, because when I look at his knives, they still have that old school kind of hand contouring and kind of like they have that vibe of. Why don't you bring some of them up so we can take a peek?
Yeah, let me go like this. Let me add this on here. This is his OdenCustoms.com website. He also does a Facebook group and all that. And this is just a slide thing scrolling through on his website. One or two of these I might have here. I don't know because Anthony sent in a bunch, but he does some crazy stuff with a lot of exotic materials a lot of times, which is super cool.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the thing is when you look at these knives, they still give you that feel of like handmade, Mm-hmm. And I like the nicely decked knife, where it's got some nice precision cuts and stuff. But sometimes I also like a little bit of signature and a little bit of, just of an organic feel, I think is the perfect way to describe it. And his knives definitely have a very organic feel. They all flow a bit differently. And that's what I like about those. There's quite a few makers that really like that do kind of a similar thing where they're not like a cookie cutout version of their each and every knife. Each and every one maybe like a hair of an inch shorter or a hair a bit longer, or maybe the swedge is slightly more flared, for example. And I love that. Like it gives you that, it's a basic same footprint. It's that model, but It gives you that, this one is mine. This one's kind of different. It's special.
I agree. And it looks like Jim's back.
So yeah, my internet cut out for the first time, and I don't know how long. So I'm having to stream off my phone now. So sorry about that.
That's okay. Don't even worry about it. We've dealt with that before.
Oh yeah.
Thai Addiction, welcome. And we see a lot of the comments, and we're going to get to a lot of questions and comments here in just a little bit. Let's just kind of get through kind of a little intro thing about Jim and whatnot. Then we will get to a lot of comments and questions.
So what got you into actually like making them yourself? Was it that you just wanted like your own knife the way you wanted it, or?
Actually, no. My past background is in finance and in banking, loan and loans and stuff like that. I had and I've always been into knives, and I want to shout out another maker here that I wouldn't be here doing it without him, which is David Freeman of Freeman Knives.
Oh yeah. He's
Okay,
another one.
So back I was still collecting, still working at a bank, and I got a Freeman knife in on a trade, and I didn't know nothing about it. I knew I liked it. Didn't know nothing about it though. Started looking him up and noticed that, hey, this guy lives 5 minutes from where I'm at.
Mm.
So I contacted him. I'm like, hey man, you live close to me. What's you make them there, or what's going on? And because I really didn't know a lot about custom knives at that time. This was in probably late 2017. And, I knew that there was custom knives, but I didn't know that, hey, local people made them too. There's a lot of people that make custom knives.
Oh, yeah.
And so I reached out to him and said, hey, you mind, can I come over, come visit your shop, come, check it out, see what's going on. And he was very gracious to say, yeah, come on over. Went over to his house, and we kind of, hit it off. I brought my knives, showed him some of my collection, and ended up having him build me a couple of knives that he built. And I still wasn't into making knives though at that point.
Right.
It wasn't up until about late 2019 that I've kind of just didn't want to do what I was doing anymore, and went with. I had an idea, a couple of ideas, which was my first two models was the Bear, and which was originally, you have one there that has a thumb stud. The original model has the hole in the center of it. So it's kind of like, I don't know if there's a Kingdom Armory knife that gave me inspiration from it that has a hole in the center. And I love the way that one opened. So that was my first design, was that one.
Okay.
And my second one was called the AMF, and another little tidbit about.
I don't think I have one of those.
No, nobody does. Actually, two people do.
Ah.
It wasn't a big hit, because coming out of the gate, I didn't want to copy anybody. I wanted everything to be, totally kind of different and out there. That's the reason the Bear has that. The suede, the tip that comes out. The AMF it was just a regular Warcliffe blade, but it had a triangle for the opening deployment. It was a weird design. It was out there. It wasn't a big hit. I didn't particularly like it, but it's what I like. So I went to Dave and can you make knives? The basics. I don't want to know all your tips and tricks. I just want to know the basics. And he said, sure.
Yeah.
Just bring some beer. So I camped out over there at his house for every night, unless he was doing something, every night for a month, and learned as much as I could. Purchased a grinder, purchased a mill, and went to making knives. And that's kind of that. No longer had a day job, and before I knew it, I had orders from people that I knew in the community, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah,
didn't know whether I could make a knife, didn't know nothing, but they would say, "Hey, yeah, I'll place an order with you," and it just kind of took off from there. And so that's how it kind of developed into going full time, going from not making knives to working at a bank to going full-time knife maker within a month, and just total shift change. It wasn't no part-time. It wasn't no modding. It was just boom. It's going to work, or I'm going to follow my face. So
and sometimes I think that makes you more hungry, more determined, and dedicated, because you're just diving right in. There is no backup plan. It's not like my day job will pay my bills and I'll try to get something going over here. You just, that was it. You had to make it work. And I think a lot of good stuff comes out of that when people make that drastic shift in their life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with that.
True. You're very motivated because you have to make it work, because there is
very brave. It's a very
brave, and I give you a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, thank you. This is I've got a picture of my first knife that I made. I don't own it. I know the guy that owns it. He's out of the knife community. He got tired. He was kind of like me. He didn't like Facebook. He got tired of Facebook. He got tired of all the drama. He dropped out. He owns it, but this is what it looked like.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, look at that.
That's the first knife I ever made.
That's awesome.
And I've always told him, I said, if you ever sell it, I want to buy it back.
Yeah,
But
for
he,
sure.
he hasn't sold it. He still owns it. So, but that
That's
was the first
awesome
knife.
that he still owns
That's the first knife and the first design that I made.
And that was 2019, you said?
October 2019. Yes.
Wow.
And
so
that
in 3 years, you've gone from that to somehow getting rocks from space.
That's it. Yeah. Space rock.
in just 3 years. I mean, yes. I am, gonna continue following and stuff to see where you're at in another 3 years.
Yeah, and it's not really. It's really 2.5 because I took about. Whenever the pandemic started, we lived.
Yeah.
Me and my wife are both from the same area, and housing prices were going through the roof, as y'all probably know. And for some reason, I'll still never understand why. But we decided that we was going to move closer to home. We lived about an hour away, and so we put our house up for sale. And we didn't know it was going to sell that fast. It sold within a day, and we had nowhere to live. Our house wasn't built yet. Wow. So I had to shut down shop for about 5 months. And this was late in 2020. And so.
And where do you guys live again? Where are you guys at?
It's in Boaz, Alabama. Boaz, Alabama.
Boaz.
It's
Alabama.
about 2 hours west of Atlanta, Georgia. About an hour north of Birmingham, Alabama. If you know
Got it.
Where that
only thing I know about it is Birmingham. Okay, I heard Birmingham.
Yeah.
So, very, very cool.
All right, so Professor EDC has a question. How do you make that jump in such a short time? How do you go from making a first knife with normal material into doing the exotic, crazy stuff that you're doing now? I think is where he's getting.
Well, that particular one.
How'd you come up with space? What was the premise of Meteorite?
That was not my idea. That was a customer's idea. So basically how I do my knives, especially orders, I let the customer, they can pick any design, pick any material. There has been some that I've said, let's don't do that, or, let's go this route, or kind of push them in a different, but I like to let them have as much control as they want, or give me as much control as they want. So most of the time it's a happy medium. Sometimes somebody wants something exactly like, down to the screw colors, the materials, the grind on the blade, because I offer different grinds on some of my blades. Mm-hmm. Especially the sign models. I've got a couple different grinds I do on those.
Yep.
So I let them have as much control as they want, or either way.
So they picked the Meteorite and the zirconium for that one.
And I had no idea it was going to weigh 12 ounces.
I think it's 10.5 or something.
Is it 10.5? Okay.
It's up there.
It's heavy.
But it's not. Now I have. I've got the Frank Fisher Battle that's 10.2, and I think yours is 10.4 if I remember.
Yeah.
So they're not that far off. So I've carried this a lot, and I've carried a bunch of Medfords, which are up there also. The Praetorian tie is in that 11-ounce-ish range. So that doesn't bother me. A 10-ounce knife is not what I'm normally carrying these days, but that doesn't really bother me. And this one carries really well.
Well, yeah. Plus, zirconium is very heavy material. And
you got everything.
Meteorite is pretty much iron, so it's going to be heavy. But that's cool. I think it's awesome. Who cares about the weight? That's not the point of that, right?
And how was it machining the Meteorite and working with Meteorite?
It wasn't too bad. That one does have a pivot inlay.
Yeah, which is also Meteorite.
Yeah, which is also Meteorite. So that's the only problem I had with it was I was trying to get. I don't know a lot about Meteorite, but I think they're called inclusions or in.
Mm-hmm.
There's So I was trying to get that one of those parts in the center of that meteorite because I thought that was the coolest part of the meteorite.
Mm-hmm.
And it would just crumble on me every time I would mill it. So
that's why I was shocked that you made a whole scale out of that, because I figure around the edges it'd be kind of chippy and that'd be a pain in the ass to work with, and it's expensive. That stuff is very expensive. Because I shop for materials
and
once in a while.
And the scales are thick. I mean, they're not overly thick, but they're not just like a little overlay, guys. It's the whole scale.
Yeah.
You know, it's legit stuff. That's a legit knife that came out really cool.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I actually like that quite a bit. And I like the fact that you allow customers to kind of participate, because me and a few knife makers have bumped heads, like figuring out where we want to get to, and getting the final. And I know I'm one of those people, like, I've already seen it. Like, before you make it, I've already seen it. I know exactly what it's going to look like. And when it comes out of the box, most of the time I have like some realistic expectations. I'm never shocked. I'm like, yep, that's what I thought it was going to be, right? Well, once in a while I get like, a little blown away on some people, but I've been around them for so long, and I've like dealt with so many people on so many builds that I like kind of got the idea of like what stuff goes down. And like when I deal with makers, I buy a lot of my own materials, because I found that quite a few of the makers that I dealt with mark the materials up crazy, like not just a little bit, which is fine, and that's okay, because I could tell you from experience, like when I shop for like this butterscotch Westinghouse, it was very, very hard to find. Took a while. And then not only that, you have to be like dedicated to keep looking. You can't give up because you don't find it today. You got to look like, in 2 weeks and look at different sources. So it's like that sort of time that you invest sometimes searching for it is why I understand the upcharge on a lot of that stuff. But then I tell like a lot of makers I've done a few builds with, I'm like, don't worry, I got this. Like, what size do you want to cut? What do you want this? What do you want that? I'm doing one right now with North Arm Knives, the Skaha. That is like a cool little production knife, not super expensive. Only comes in one carbon fiber. And I asked for like 3.5 years. I asked Mike to make something out of fat carbon for me, and I finally got him to do it. And, but it was a lot of work. I had to like get with fat carbon, get the right cut so that it would fit his mill. And, there's a lot to it. So, so I like collaborating with makers when it comes to making knives, but then not everybody's been doing it a long time, and I feel bad sometimes because I've heard some of my friends that collect knives and they're like, yeah, I want this and this built, and I'm gonna ask this guy to do this, and I'm thinking in my head like, dude, that's crazy, bro. That is a little like, you can't ask that of a maker. Like, some people come up with some really crazy stuff, and I like coming up with crazy stuff too, but within reason. I mean, like, you don't want to like challenge the guy like to the point where it's not, neither one of you are going to like what comes out.
Well, and that's another how I've kind of got to where I'm, in 2.5 years of actually making, is people saying, hey, will you do this? And I'm like, sure, I'll try it. I'll do it. And that's. And a lot of the stuff, whenever I first started out, I would make them, sell them, auction them, stuff like that. And I've kind of more into book orders now.
Yeah,
it just seems to have flowed that way. People will contact me and say, I want a book order, and I'll still make one every once in a while to sell. But I kind of want to be, because I know what you're talking about, Alex, is where you get makers that are set in their ways and they don't want to let, like,
they don't bend.
They don't bend. It's like I'm going to do it this way, and it's more of the older makers, and they're great makers. But it's whenever you want to order something from them, it's like I'm doing it this way. If you don't like it, well, you're not getting my knife.
And I think that's fair too. I want to be clear. That is
yeah,
fair.
that's fair.
That's fair.
Yeah, and I understand it, especially for making, because it's a lot to do what I do, where is to let people choose what style of what pattern of Dama or of core Nicholas core do you want? I let people. I don't just say here's your option. Which one do you want? I say go on their website and choose what you want. I'll order it.
Right.
What pattern Damascus do you like? I'll get that. What I want to make them. They see it and they say I want that, and it is a lot more work.
Yes.
But I think there's a place for it in the custom knife communities, to where a lot of people won't do that, to where I'm willing to do that, because it's really nothing for me to use different material. I'll use the rest of them, because a lot of it you have extra, especially off of billets of steel.
Right.
You'll have more material and you'll use it down the road sometime.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that huge of a deal. I've got a lot of steel laying around that, I'll use sometime. I'll make something, to sell, or I'll show them what I have in stock, and they'll say, yeah, I like that. And so it's not that big of a deal for me.
For sure. So Floridian has a question. What's the average time to make a knife beginning to end? And we talked about this a little bit before we, kind of went live.
Yeah.
It's probably, I don't know. You just answer the way you want to answer. I mean, it's probably hard to tell, but.
So it is kind of hard to tell, because sometimes I used to whenever I first started, I would do, because I didn't know what I was doing. Right. I was like, do I need to do it this way? So it would probably take me, whenever I first started, I would do one at a time,
mm-hmm.
And then probably a week, maybe, of hour-wise, probably 40 hours. I mean, at that time, probably 40 hours to make one knife. Now I do 2, 3. I just got done doing 6 at a time a couple of months ago. I'll never do that again. I don't like doing that much. There's too much.
Probably a lot.
Too much going on, too much everything like that. So I would say on average, it probably takes, and it all depends on what the material is. Like the meteorite, when you have the liners, you have the meteorite that you have to butt up against, the zerk that you have to butt up against, get everything lined up. So it kind of varies, but a standard build, titanium, non-liner lock handle with just a regular stainless steel blade, maybe 20 hours, 25 hours of working time. But that's not including the time of heat treat, stop, and then, that's just straight. I'm talking about the actual working time. So correct. I can usually do 2 to 3 sometimes if I'm pushing it. A week. It just depends on the materials and what they are.
That's cool. And Dave Freeman joins in. Says,
David, the man himself.
David, we just got done talking about David.
Big time now. And then Nap Sergeant had said Alex ruined his life with getting into buying materials. Alex has not ruined my life yet, but we did go to a knife show before, and we spent a lot more time than I normally do at the raw material booths.
Oh yeah, like Vegas.
That's what Alex likes to do. Oh, yeah. And I have never bought material before. I've never really looked at raw material. I've looked at raw material a little bit, but I've never gotten material and shipped it to a maker at this point in my life. And I don't think I will, because I'm not sure I'm going to know what's going to look good with this and that and the other. That's I may contract and hire Alex to help me design something one day.
You just don't know until you try it,
And then Satu Dave says, hey, we might have already asked this question, but are you using manual mills and lathes or CNC in any computer-aided drawing?
What's up, Dave?
So I now use both. I started out with doing all my designs in AutoCAD, printing them out on a 1-to-1 scale, gluing them to the titanium or steel, cutting them out on a bandsaw, and using a manual. I have a Precision Matthews PM25 for anybody that's a machinist or knows. And
Dave is a machinist, so that's why he's asking.
Okay, so I have a Precision Matthews PM25, and I've had that since I started. It's a great mill. So I would use that and mill out all of my holes, mill out my liners, or not my liners, but my lock relief. And and do everything on the manual mill. Of course, I've always done everything on grinding. All it's all done on a 2x72 grinder.
Mm-hmm.
But now I've got to the point where I have my own CNC. It's a small Tormach 440. It's a very small. People see it and they think it's huge, but it's a small CNC.
Right.
And so I taught myself. This was back in mid 2020. I taught myself how to use Fusion 360.
Okay.
With the help of another maker who I've always been a huge fan of, which is Eric Luther of Luther Designs.
Yeah, it's a good guy. I've owned a couple.
Yeah, and he helped me out a lot in any questions I had about Fusion, because it's not, people think that a CNC that just does all the work for you. No. The person may be operating in the big shop, maybe, but for people that doesn't have that, you have to design it. You have to go in there and tell it how to cut, what tool to use, program everything. It's a lot of work, to the point to where I was like, I can make a knife the old-fashioned way faster than I can the CNC way.
Right.
But until I got up to the curve of learning it at all, but it just gives me more, I guess, precision.
Mm-hmm.
But I still use it as, I don't use a CNC for anything other than basically what a water jet would do. So to cut out my designs, so my blade profiles, like a, like on a fixed blade knife.
Yep.
So I will have it just go in there. It will just have a block of steel, and it will just cut, just basically the design out, and I will just have it. But like on a fixed blade, I'll heat treat it, and then I'll grind it.
Okay.
Let me see if I've got.
While you're looking for that, we'll talk about Tony's question here. Comment. Yeah. You were talking about how the person ordering the knife is going to come up with the material, and that's how this copper blade came up. That he got. He saw it on the Baker Forge website. You were able to then source that material and then build this knife to his kind of specs, if you will. And this is a beautiful knife.
It is
copper infused carbon fiber. The video for this one comes out tomorrow morning on my main channel.
Oh, nice.
So you guys can go look at that.
That's in my top 5 of knives that I built. That it was hard to let go of.
This is a nice one. It kind of has that copper smell, and so for me, I don't really love that aspect of it. And that's nothing against you or that's just a thing. If you got a pocket full of pennies, same thing.
Right.
But outside of that, I absolutely love the look of it. And when you showed that on your Facebook group that you were just finishing, I think I commented, and then Anthony sent me a message. He goes, "Yeah, that's coming to me." I'm like, "No, send it to me," because I had to see that one.
That knife was 100% Anthony's vision.
It's beautiful.
I just made it come to life. It was 100%. 100%. He had it in his mind, kind of like Alex says. He has. You have stuff in your mind, and I was just the one that made it come to life. So, but this is kind of like what I was talking about. This is a knife that hasn't been, it just comes out. That's how it comes out of the CNC. So
basically a blank.
Basically a blank of my design, and then I hand finish it from there, and that's basically like how the handles will come out.
Okay.
They'll come out with the holes. They'll come out. This has a pivot in it already, but they'll come out with all that already there, and then I will hand finish it and assemble it from there. So that's basically what my CNC does. You can get into where the CNC actually grinds the knives, which is something I want to get into, to offer sort of an in-house lower cost, low production type knife. Is something that I want to do in the future. That's all, because I think we was talking in the pre-show that I don't like sending stuff out. I don't like other people doing anything that I can do here.
Right.
So I kind of want to have a larger, and I was looking, and I did bid on some of these machines, some larger Haas, actual real CNCs for that. The way the economy was going, I kind of just backed off from that idea for a little bit until we see where everything's going.
I think less is more, and if you can do
It is
what you're doing with the less machines. That just helps your profits and helps keep you going until you're unable to keep up.
Yeah.
And then you kind of have to step up the machining, stuff like that.
Which the CNC with these, you would have, they're about 95% in CNC. You basically take them off the CNC and grind, lock up, and sharpen them. So that's basically what you would have to do. And there's a couple of makers I know that do that. And they sell well, and they sell for pretty high. But I want to offer something that's.
I think that's a great option.
I want to offer something in the lower price range.
Yeah.
Where there's no customization, this is kind of like
this is what you get.
But something that's in-house that I do, because I just got a niche about it that I don't want to send out for anything.
Like I think that's a great way to go.
Like a mid-tech or something like that. So.
And then Dave's asking, are you using jigs for the 2x72 grinding?
I do use jigs. I do.
It's all stuff.
And what do you do for your heat treat protocols? Are you using an even heat, or
I've got an even heat LB18. Yeah,
very nice.
That I've had since I've started. Yeah, because I've never sent out for heat treat. Whenever I first done my first couple of ones, I done all carbon steel for like the first one or two, just because you can do them with a big torch and just dip in oil. But shortly after I did get an even heat LB18, and I do all my heat treating in house and everything like that.
Very cool. Very cool.
That's great. And the even heat is kind of the industry standard, I think.
That's
talking
great.
with Alex and Jason over at VC Edge, who does all his own heat treating as well. So
Aaron Goff, there's tons of them.
That's the way that you can control your product.
Yep.
You send stuff out, and it's up to those guys to do it right. And if it comes back, it could be a problem.
I like that more and more people are starting to do their own heat treats, because before that, everybody'd send it out to Peters or whoever. And and nothing against them, but it's like a large batch heat treat is not going to come out as good as like a smaller batch one. It's just not.
And I usually do. I think the most I've done at one time is like 3 blades at one time. So like in the heat treat oven. Because every blade, every different steel has a different recipe. Some of them like 1950 for 15 minutes. Some of them like 2000, 2100, 2050 for 30 minutes. So there's a lot of information out there that wasn't available. I don't know before, but there is now. I don't know when that started getting out there. That tells you, because these steel makers know that custom makers are wanting to do their own heat treating, so that they provide the essential,
they kind of publish their own
for this
recipe.
Rock hardness. You do it this, and then also for the temper also.
Right.
And Cairo, I also started doing the Cairo process, which is liquid nitrogen.
Oh yeah.
After that, it gets it down to negative 300 degrees, which is supposed to help with, not really help with the hardness, but help with the, I don't know the science behind it. I just know they say it helps. So I was like, hey, I'll spend the $300 and get that process rolling.
I've done a bunch of race car parts that way. I do a lot of off-road racing. And so we were cryoing a lot of like axle shafts and ring and pinions and things like that. Does it? I don't know. But everybody, that was the thing to do. And all the big name racers were doing it. So as little guys were, hey, we need that advantage too. If those guys are doing it, it must be good. So I don't know. I mean, it never seemed to hurt anything. So
I think a lot of people are doing that too now. Like even like the Grimsmos are, went to that process now. A lot of I if it's available, why not?
Absolutely.
And
it can only make it better.
Yeah, and for something like a custom maker, it's not that expensive. The dweller that it holds is like $300, and you can put like 6 or 7 knives in there at a time. It holds the liquid nitrogen for, I think mine holds it for 50 or 60 days, and it's about $50 or $60 to fill up. So it's not a huge expense.
Right. Okay.
I don't know if it helps. I don't know if it hurt. I know it don't hurt. But
It doesn't hurt, and
they
it's
say
relatively inexpensive.
They say,
so why not?
it helps. It helps the steel come from that high of a temperature back down to room temperature to put it in there, and I don't know, but
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, because I don't know much about that stuff. I always figured like with rapid cooling of steel, you can make it like a little too hard or a little too brittle sometimes, depending on what you're working with. So I always found that I always want to learn more about that cryo process and how these guys achieve that, because it's like it's different. It's a different way of doing it, and but yeah, it's kind of fascinating.
yeah, I do know carbon steels really doesn't benefit from it at all. It's just the stainless steels,
Right.
that benefit from the cryo treatment. And I've done some tests with some fixed blades. I think it helps, in the hardness and in not making the edge chip as much. But it's nothing scientific. It's kind of like the video I sent you, Dirk, of the tip of the bear. So
Yeah,
it's nothing scientific. But stabbing it with a table and cutting, stabbing it through cardboard and it holding up was. Not many people are going to do that.
I figured that I would break that off in a heartbeat if I used it.
Yeah.
And then, so I said that in my video for those of you that hadn't seen it. And then later, I posted the video in Kyle's Facebook group. And later he then did a rebuttal little video that he did previously of stabbing, not this specific knife, but a different model of the same thing, stabbing it into a table, cutting a bunch of cardboard, and the tip was there. And I'm like, okay, I'm impressed. It's not my knife. I'm not going to go out in the backyard and jam it through my jerry can like I have some other knives. Anthony probably wouldn't be so happy with me if I had, and I wouldn't be happy with myself if I got to buy him a new knife. But
he wouldn't care. He wouldn't care.
So do you have a favorite model that you make?
Design wise, I would say two. Action wise, it's actually the bear.
It's got great action.
We was talking about that before in pre-show again, that the bear originally, and a lot of them out there do, that one particular person, it wasn't Anthony, but it was another guy that ordered that one. He wanted studs. Yeah. So that's the original bear with the middle hole opening, and it's just fun to flick. It was fun to open. It's fun to flick.
Mm-hmm.
Probably
I like this one a lot.
My favorite, my favorite by design would probably have to be the Spartacus. That is the Warcliffe blade.
I think that's this one.
Yes.
That I haven't filmed yet. They were in the bottom of the case.
But for me, non-flipper. That's the reason I only have one model that has a flipper. I'm very anti-flipper. I don't like them. I actually hate them.
This one with the non-flipper.
And that particular one, it does have a light D10. I will agree with you.
It's a bit light, but that
was a prototype of an inset lock. So that was the first. Dipping my foot into an inset lock.
Damascus blade, and this is carbon fiber.
Yeah.
Scales. It's super light with an inset liner. I haven't filmed this one yet. I'm going to try to do that maybe tonight or in the next day or two. I haven't gotten to this 3 Spartacus. I think there's 3 of these Spartacus ones.
Yeah. So where that one came from is, we talked about earlier how I got into knives, and I mentioned Marfion Customs.
Yes.
I loved his I think it's Warhound.
Oh yeah. You're talking about the OTF one?
No, the folding.
Are you talking about the SOCOM version? The Warcom?
I think it's called the War. Is it the Warhound?
Well, the Warhound was that one weird, is like a crazy modified Tonto one, I think, if I remember right. My favorite was always the Interceptor. That's the one that had like the teeth in the back.
So,
I think Anthony's saying, please don't go jam it into the jerry can.
There it is.
The folder Warcom.
Yeah.
That was always my favorite model of his. So I wanted to make something that was not a copy, but was an inspiration from that knife. Of course, the handle is completely different. The blade is kind of similar. It's kind of hard to do a different design for a Warcliffe blade. But, I didn't do an exact copy, an exact grind or anything like that. But it had a lot of inspiration from that knife.
I see that.
Yeah, it had a lot of inspiration. And that's where it came from.
And here's a different version of the same model.
Too.
Yeah.
This one's got thumb studs and a flipper. This might be one of my favorite ones that Anthony sent me.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
I love that just copper line in the Damascus. It's just
and
that's from that's from Baker.
Baker, yeah. Baker
I know Gambit Steels did something similar too. That was pretty cool. Yeah, that's really cool, man. Is it like sealed? Does it like what happens when you etch that? Does it have to be polished over time like any other copper, or how does it react over time?
So over time, I'm not sure. I've only been using them for about. It's probably been 8 or 9 months. So I'm not having complaints about anything happening to the. It's just like, they're a carbon steel, so of course you need to keep them oiled lightly, and just the regular maintenance that you would any carbon steel for them not to rust. But I've not had any complaints about them. There is a special process that I do to get the copper to pop as much and to have that dark of a contrast blade. But other than that, it's I've always loved their billets that they do. They're doing amazing work over there.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's artistic. It's very artistic.
And this one is also from Baker.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
These two are just, I love this blade. I love both of these.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, this design with just a little bit of copper line there, that's more my favorite.
Yeah. And that's actually the Damascus on that part that you can see above the copper, Dirk.
Yeah.
Is actually wrought iron, which is
it's mild steel then, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard to see here, but when I do the full video, you guys will see it.
Yeah. But it's kind of neat. You can see the wrought iron kind of ingrained in there, kind of like in a raindrop pattern.
Yes, it's kind of raindrop pattern-ish.
And it's a really, really neat billet that they did with that.
Oh, there you go.
That's super cool. There. Very, very nice.
Yeah, I do love this blade. I love a Damascus. That's kind of my thing. I've got a couple here. My battle has the drip on it, which is the thing. And then I've got this other one from Frank's brother, TJ. The Sanmai, that's just kind of my jam.
Yeah.
And in the darker finish is what I kind of like too. The bright, shiny Damasteel, not really my favorite, but
I was not a polished blade fan at all when I was collecting. When I was collecting heavy, I wasn't a polished blade fan when I first started making until I done a Damascus. I first done a Damasteel polished, and I just fell in love with it from there. It's just the kind of detail, because you do what's called a deep etch, which is kind of raises the pattern up a little bit, and you got to be careful with how much you do it, because it can affect a lot of the D10 and the action on it and stuff.
Right.
But I kind of came around to it, but definitely not a straight mirror polish. Just regular. Yeah,
not a mirror polish.
Steel, just stainless steel blade is not something that I like.
And then Nav Sergeant says he's got a custom with copper in the blade, and one thing that concerns him is the fact that there is a bit of copper on the lock face, and I'm worried how it will wear over time. No. It's an interesting question.
Probably such a small sliver, it doesn't matter. That would be
probably, yeah.
Yeah, because they're all going to have copper on the lock face by the way they're made, because it's a core blade. So in the middle is going to be the core hardened material, and on the outside is going to be whatever it is, the copper or this in this particular.
It's just a jacket, like a
Yeah,
copper jacket.
it's just a jacket that's on this copper, and how you get that copper look to where kind of like the one where the line is you just grind it. So you grind it, and where it comes out at whatever, it depends on what size wheel you use, how thin you go, and stuff like that. So, yeah, like that one come down, a little bit towards the thing, and of course, if you looked at the lock face on that, you're going to see the jacketed part of whatever material that is.
That's a beautiful one.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, the steel in this one's really cool too. It's a core of a CPM Rex 121.
Rex 121.
Yeah, that's some crazy stuff right there.
Hinderer Collector, what's up, man?
What's up, Hinderer Collector 41?
He's been blowing up on Instagram and all of that, and he's a hardcore Hinderer guy.
Yes.
So we're gonna have him on the show at some point because he's just kind of a cool guy.
Yep.
That's one thing I got to start using more is Instagram. I'm more of a Facebook user myself, and I do have an Instagram, and I do have a lot of interactions on there, but I kind of like the group aspect of the Facebook. So
agreed. It works out. I do both. But really, I post on Instagram, and then it automatically posts over on Facebook. That's how I kind of do it. Yeah. And then if I go to dinner with my girlfriend or something, I just put that on like Facebook. She's like, "How come you didn't do it on Instagram and just have it?" That's more work because you got to like check in over there, and you got to do when you're doing stuff like you're at a place. There's a little more work to do, not just a goofy meme or a knife picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you take more pictures of knives than your kids, when you're out somewhere. I'm sure there's a meme that exists about that.
Kyle might be building something with a Hitachi blue core blade.
Oh, that might be pretty interesting.
Does Anthony know something that?
Let's see here.
Oh, there you go.
I guess Anthony's made an order of something, huh?
That's pretty.
That looks nice.
That pattern.
So this is called Hitachi Blue Core, which I don't know a lot about. I'm gonna have to see about heat treating on this, but from what Corey over at Baker Forge said, it's a very rare Japanese material that they use for swords over there, and they got a small batch, and they had like 20 billets that sold out in 5 minutes.
No.
Luckily, I've got a pretty good relationship with Corey, so I was able to email him and say, "Hey, is there any chance y'all?" Because Tony wanted something made from that, and I forgot to order some, and luckily he had one left that I was able to purchase. So.
Oh, it's Super Blue. Okay.
Nav Sergeant asked, "Is that the same thing as Super Blue?"
Like I said, I'm not 100% sure because I don't know. I just know that Tony said, "Hey, I want that," and we're making something out of it. So I just know it's some sort of Japanese special steel that they use for like swords and stuff like that.
That's cool.
Yeah, I would have thought that too. Good point, Knife Sergeant. That's a good.
I liked the bug with the herringbone Damascus.
Herringbone, yeah, that was a very, very early model.
Forge. I do like that. I have a big knife that has this pattern, and I like it because from kind of a distance you can't see that it's Damascus. You think it's just a coated blade, and then when you get up on it, you can see that it's a really tight herringbone weave. Not weave, but pattern. And then this one's got one of Alex's favorite materials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mokume. Is that Nicole's boomerang? Is that what that is?
Nicole's boomerang. Yeah, that's it.
That's the only one that
kind of gives you that copper.
Well, that's the only one. That's the only one that's ever going to get like those tones of red in it and stuff like that. I only seen Chad Nichols do it that way. Yeah, he does a really good job. That guy.
Oh, his stuff is amazing.
He's a specialist.
Yeah.
We should try to get him on one time.
You should.
Talk about how you make
should how to forge it. Yeah.
Good idea.
How to forge.
Or any of these, Vegas Forge, one of these guys, just to kind of talk about that aspect. Elgato, my buddy Joseph, Oden custom knives are so beautiful. I have loved to watch his progression from the beginning to now. I definitely want to own another one someday. So because he owned one that's kind of going through the slideshow here, if I can find it.
I appreciate that, Elgato.
Was the one I bought from him.
Oh, that was a nice one.
That was, I think, well, here it is, coming up over here. Let me share that and get rid of that. So this one here is the one that Joseph owned, Elgato.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then I got it from him in a trade cash deal. I don't even remember exactly. And then that was the first video I did when I talked to you and got a kind of your background and stuff. I love that dark blade and the curvy Tonto, if you will.
Right. Yeah.
I love that. And this is the same blade shape as that other one. You know, it's sleek with the curve. It's not like a hard, normal, 90 or 80 degree turn, whatever. But
yeah,
I don't know. I think it's cool. And I loved having that one. And, but then Anthony hit me up and wanted it. And he had a dozen other ones. So I figured, you kind of bigger like this. So I kind of,
Oh, yeah. Stuff comes and goes.
I hooked him up. I'm not a big serial flipper, but
yeah,
if somebody really wants something, somebody hit me up the other day for this, literally on Instagram last night, I think, said, what would it take? Or Facebook. He goes, check out my profile. I own all of those pistols that are in that red picture. Take your pick. I was like, yeah, it's not for sale.
Yeah. I figured that was going to be your answer. I know how much you love that one.
Yeah, now Sergeant says he needs to hit up Vegas Forge. I literally live 5 minutes away. For now, so you better hit him up before you move and get stationed. Just saying.
Yeah, I like Nice Sergeant's pictures too of like with the planes and stuff that he puts on IG. It's pretty cool. He was I forget what he does in the Air Force. What do you do, Mikey? What's your MOS?
Now Sergeant's Mike, and he's in the Air Force here in Vegas, but got reassigned. And at some point, I think later this year is moving. I hope that's not a secret. I'm just a guy, Tony. Yeah, well, hopefully that wasn't a secret.
To the million of people that's watching right now.
F-35 avionics. Wow.
F-35 avionics, whatever.
I like that plane quite a bit.
Plane. Nice. Works on the avionics stuff. He's got a lot of time to take pictures of knives with the planes, his watches with the planes.
Do you play volleyball with your buddies?
With your shirt off.
Like they do with your shirt off, like Top Gun.
And yes, he is moving to Utah. I knew where I was. I didn't want to give that many details out, but yeah, he has been reassigned to Utah, which is kind of cool. I go to Utah quite a bit. My best friend's there, and I'm thinking of moving to Utah also. That is one of the pretty big.
That's a pretty big change from Vegas to Utah.
Only shirtless. Perfect. Now you gotta. We love it. Yeah, it's going to be cooler in Utah for sure than Vegas. It still gets hot in Utah, but it doesn't get to be 110 or 120.
Yeah.
But yeah, it gets up there in the 90s and 100s in Utah for sure during the summertime.
Yeah.
But it's also going to snow, which I know you don't have in Vegas. So that might be a little bit of a culture change also.
Yep.
Get a truck.
I'm just going to show off some. I'm just going to show some of these fixed blades I had that I've
Let's see, man.
That'll be going out. These are. I know Dirk, you've seen some of them.
Let's see if I can make you bigger.
So
that's what she said.
These are ones that I've kind of done, sort of like how I want to do the folders, kind of like a production style. So these are all going to be rock ground fixed blades, DLC. They're all going to be rock ground, all the same model, all DLC coded. The buyers can just pick the scale material. So that's what I'm doing on these, and I'm doing them in batches. This is the first batch that I've kind of done, so you can see. I like that. It's the sin recurve, and it's kind of hard to see the grind. I left it at a low grit just so you could see the grind lines on there with the DLC.
Yeah, I like that.
But there's a regular carbon fiber. This one I really like it's called 80s Damascus or 80s.
Oh, the
yeah.
80s carbon fiber. Yeah.
Yeah, 80s
That's
carbon
sweet.
fiber that has I really like that. It really pops with the black.
Yep.
Shark Nivco has made a couple of their new Waka models out of
Waka,
that. It's
yeah,
awesome.
Waka,
The
yeah.
Waka.
This one is they call it Damascus. It's kind of hard to see the purple in it.
Okay,
More it's kind of blue, but there is some purple and some lighter blue in there.
Yeah, I could see that. It's a nice little contrast.
Yeah, and this one is, I know that Anthony will like this one because he loves the copper, but this one has kind of like a copper look to it. That's kind of round.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to see.
Almost like a raindrop.
Yeah, like a raindrop copper type thing. So that's kind of what, and I made the mistake of sending these off to DLC before we went on vacation back in June, and I was in a rush to get some stuff done and trying to get these out to DLC because that process does take 2 to 3 weeks. This one actually took a month. And I didn't make the scales for these. So how I usually do my fixed blade scales is usually, just attach them to the fixed blades and just kind of profile them together and then contour them. And then, that's how I usually do them.
Mm-hmm.
These, I didn't do I wasn't thinking because I was in a rush. And was trying to save some time. So I sent them out to DLC and didn't make the scales. Got them back and I was like, crap. What am I going to do? So I've been having to, kind of inch in the scales to get them, grind a little bit, test fit, grind a little bit, test fit.
Yeah.
So it's ended up costing me time, but I'm done with this batch. And
Bobby Legs in the house.
Oh, Bobby Legs. Hello, sir.
Crazy Watch friends has a YouTube channel also.
I like his channel. His channel is cool. I watch it once in a while.
He's a cool guy.
Wife Mondays, He
gets his wife on there.
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah,
because we do watches too. Do you do watches, Jim?
I did. I got into because I was looking for something to get into. After you start making knives, you're not really as a hardcore collector of knives. After that. I know many that's done that, but they was a hardcore collector, and you just kind of back off from it. You're still a collector, still love knives, but it's not something that you're actually, like y'all probably do, or on the searching, what can I trade? What can I buy? What's next? So I kind of got into watches and seeing if that was my niche, and it kind of was. And me and Dirk talked a lot about watches, and I bought a bunch of, I kind of like, of course, Omega. I had an Omega, and had the Zelos was a great micro brand that I really loved. I think
Alex is really into Zelos right now too.
Zelos, is it Zelos?
I think it's Zelos.
Is it
we
Zelos?
Determined. I think it's Zelos.
But he kind of the guy kind of reminded me of kind of like what I'm doing. It's kind of a low scale kind of puts out good products, and I kind of like that.
Dude, he's about to collaborate with Hodinky. He's getting pretty big now.
Yeah,
he's getting big.
Yeah,
like big time. And like I bought a 40 millimeter titanium swordfish with his red PVD meteorite face on it. Uh-huh. And it was, I think I bought it directly from him. It was like $560 or something like that with an NH35. What a watch. It was so comfortable, so lightweight. And then I got hooked. And then recently I got the Comet. That's one of his new sector dial ones with the fat carbon dial on it. That's a nice watch too. So, it's like a dress watch with a bunch of lume on it. It's kind of unusual, I like that.
Yeah, I really liked his the skeleton one. I can't remember the name of it, but the skeleton one.
Oh, the Sky Raider, I think.
Sky Raider. The second one, the Sky Raider 2.
Yeah.
That was an excellent looking watch.
What are you guys wearing today? What are you guys wearing today?
Apple Watch. So that's what I know. As we was talking earlier during the pre-show,
You gotta put a manly.
watches.
Just put a manly strap on it and like put a rotating dial on it.
So
I can always just do it.
Detroit Spartans put up with us for an hour talking about knives. Now he's like, now we're speaking my language. He's a big watch guy. He's a good friend of mine. I had the Rolex Air King on today. I didn't really go anywhere. I just, putzed around the house most of the day. So I just wear this one for part of the day. I don't really wear watches a lot at home. But that's what I had today.
Well,
What
see,
about
I'm
you,
always
Alex? What you got?
I'm always at home, so
that's true.
I kind of walk out to my shop in my garage, and there was always getting scratched, and it would kind of bug me that it was getting scratched. So I was like, eh.
But then, like a scratch knife loses value. A scratch watch is not like as big of a deal, It's
but I would really scratch them.
I wore this Air King in Utah a couple of years ago, working on the Broncos, working on race car. I didn't even care. It got back all dinged up. I probably totally messed it up, but I mean, it's not messed up, but it is dinged up and used and well loved, if you will. So I don't even care. Oh, Tony. Yeah. Anthony's got a Rolex Milgauss, which is the same exact watch with a different dial in hand.
Yeah,
really what it is. So I could see owning the Milgauss next to the Air King, even though it's the same case.
Right. I'm not as fancy as you guys. No Omega.
What were you wearing today?
Actually, I was wearing the Zodiac Super Seawolf
with the purple.
Yeah, the Liberty London edition. And man, I love this thing. It's got one thing that I thought was kind of interesting about it that I haven't had in any of my other watches before. It's got this bracelet, which is kind of like spring loaded. So it actually like flexes, which is kind of nice. So yeah, I'm very much in love with the Super Seawolf. It's great watch.
Yeah, Detroit Spartan says the Apple Watch makes sense when you're working with your hands all day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Hardcore I just like to be an ass. Watch guy says the Apple Watch is okay. So there you go.
Apple Watch with Apple Care, bang it up whenever it messes
up. There you go.
Pay $69 and get them to send you a refurbished one. So
exactly. Yeah, for what you're doing, it's worth the price of the Apple Care.
Oh yeah.
Yep. For sure. Absolutely.
For sure.
Cool. Any other last questions from the folks that are watching? Seems like we're kind of winding down a little bit here. So thank you, Jim, for all of your time. We do greatly appreciate that.
Appreciate y'all having me.
Yeah, that was fun.
Your awesome stuff. I've got, I think, three more videos to do on the Spartacus ones.
Yeah, I love all the work you're doing is very cool. I can see you're definitely spending a lot of extra time trying to come up with your own signature design, and I appreciate that a lot as a collector. And that's kind of what a lot of us collectors are looking for is something signature, not something that looks like everything else.
Right.
And the fact that you're braver than a lot of other makers that I've talked to and willing to work with different materials and stuff is really cool. So
yeah,
I appreciate that. Yeah, absolutely.
And for another example, I've got a book order that's coming up, and kind of like you, Alex, he shops for his own material, and he sent me a message today that he wants to go with some mammoth scales.
Oh wow,
nice!
I've never worked with it, so I don't know. I just know it stinks, but that's what I've been told. When you're grinding it, it kind of smells bad. So
it stinks, and it's like a petrified stone. So that's what you have to keep in mind. It's like polishing a stone because it's chippy and like it's petrified, it's gonna chip like a stone. Not so much like a piece of wood, but more like like a stone. But that stuff is awesome. I have a couple knives. It was like one of those materials. It was on my list. I had to have a knife with something with mammoth on it. I always thought that was super cool.
Oh yeah, it's kind of like the the space rock, the meteorite. It's something that's really old, something.
The dinosaur knife.
Yeah. This has that neatness about it. So
I agree.
But I'm always up to work with any type of material. If I mess it up, I mean, it's only It's only money, so buy some more and try it
Yeah,
again.
buy some more and do it a little bit.
So, and luckily, Damascus steel has been my nemesis. I do a lot of Damascus steel now, but whenever I first started getting into making Damascus, I started using some Damascus steel, and I think I've messed up 4 Damascus steel blades so far. That just, and that's the only Damascus that I've messed up that's been high priced. That and it's, I don't know why. It's just we just don't get along.
It's almost like more of a homogeneous piece of steel compared to like layered Damascus,
Mm-hmm.
So, and even when you touch it, you can't really. I mean, you can feel the layers from the etching, but it's like powder metallurgy, so it's not. Yeah, I would imagine it's a pain in the ass with the etching process with it and stuff like that.
And apparently Anthony's got some mammoth scales sitting at home waiting for a project. So you might be doing one for him too.
Dude, I like this Anthony guy, man. He sounds just like me, man. I think
he's got a bunch of cool knives. Yeah. He's got a Rolex Milgauss and he drives a Maserati. So and it's a beautiful Maserati. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of it.
It's this. If they call it a special blue, he'll probably chime in with the color. The blue
is that the one that's in his little picture there?
In that little picture, you can barely see.
You can barely,
But
I've seen it on his Instagram.
So I bet you he wants the Hitachi blue blade to match his car, because that's something I would want.
Yeah, he had a watch that matched his car. He showed me a picture. Like,
you see,
cool. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm a car guy too, so like I'm all into that. I'm
Mediterranean.
Oh, there you go.
Is that the blue or is that the model of the car? I don't remember.
That's probably the blue.
I think that's the blue. It's a beautiful, dark, royal type blue. I don't know. It's
a beautiful car.
I may have to just fly out there, bring these back so I can pick me up at the airport with this car, and we go for a spin and take me back to the airport.
Hey, I believe he's not too far from me, so you can drop by the shop, do a shop tour.
One of these days I'll get out there. There's some. I do want to try to get out to some makers and do some stuff like that. So.
That would be some interesting videos, some on the scene.
Yes.
Kind of, for a couple of days and put together like a hour-long little making of a knife, or maybe something. Maybe something
kind of final assembly of a knife, or the raw putting it together before you hand finish it, or I don't know, something like that.
Maybe something that you and Adam dream up as a knife, like between y'all, and fly out to a maker and video them and talk to them while they're making it. That would be pretty cool. Pretty cool.
I don't know. We may come out there.
Our TV show.
I was actually going to do that with. I was going to do that with McConnell. Wow, what was his first name? You know that guy we saw at CCKS? The guy lives in Castaic. He's like 45 minutes away from me.
Yeah,
he offered me
Sean McConnell.
Yeah, Sean McConnell. He's making something. Actually, he's got a bit of your flavor in his designs too.
Yep.
Like he's got a bit of that style. It's very unique. Some horncliffs with very pointy blades, all handmade, same thing. And that was an idea I actually had. I had talked to him about talking about it during COVID. So I guess it's probably okay now. But that was something I was gonna do. Go over to a shop, take a few shots of him like pressing in a detent ball, grinding a blade, and just doing something fun like that. But yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Anthony says he's about an hour and 45 minutes away from you. So
we'll see. Is that an hour and 45 minutes in the Maserati, or is that?
No, for him it's probably
or is that in the Ford Taurus, or in the Prius?
Yeah, the turbocharged Prius.
Thanks everybody for watching. We do greatly appreciate your time. I know that sometimes we get off topic and ramble a little bit, but we appreciate you guys sticking around. And we don't have a guest next time yet, do we?
Not yet. Yeah. We may not.
We may have a guest next time. We might not. We don't
I
have
don't know.
one.
We should. We haven't done one you and me in a while. Maybe
I think it'll probably just be Alex and I. We've got a bunch of questions and topics to talk about.
Yeah.
May or may not like people may or may not like some of the topics that we're going to come up with at some point.
I think I need to get really drunk for the next one. Is what I need to do.
Oh, it's going to be that topic.
I think we need to do one of those. Like just
maybe. We will see. But so join us here in 2 weeks.
Knife drama?
There's never any drama. We just start screaming random shit.
No, I was talking about
some random
Well,
stuff
I do.
sometimes.
I do. Dirk's always nice and calm and cool.
Yeah.
I just start going randomly. We start going at it. I start bringing the soundboard with the fart sounds and the squirrel sounds.
It gets a little bit off track. You never know what you're going to get sometimes with us, but it seems to work. So cool. Well, Jim, stay on and we'll let everybody else go. And we will see you in 2 weeks. And check out Alex's main channel, my main channel. The links are in the description. And we will see you guys next time. Thanks, everyone.
Appreciate it. See y'all.